Perfect.
Okay. So this is the inaugural.
Intro to the intro.
Yeah, intro to the intro. Inaugural episode. And we were joking earlier today that we got all this set up, and it's like so pro, and then we're gonna sit down and be like,
and that's a wrap.
Okay. But I think it's this is something that we've been talking about doing for like years, really.
Yeah.
I think even going back to early on when Journey was first starting, we were dreaming about these kinds of things and taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the big things that we talked about when we were getting the podcast together. Is we're always talking about taking it to the next level, a pursuit of excellence, a pursuit of mastery. So yeah,
and then kind of the reason we hadn't started because we want that perfection, but we also don't want to. We don't want to come in and try to piece it all together, but there's an element there that's also, hey, let's just work through it and lay it out. And sure, we'll have an intro, an outro, music. I don't know. Yeah. We want the whole thing planned like we would on any one of our projects.
Yeah.
You want to kind of be able to walk through to know what's happening next, but this is new for us, and it's something that we maybe we should define what is it for us? What is that? Is it to bring in our counterparts in the industry, to bring in a bit of other knowledge base, see how we can collaborate? What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is something that we talked about. I've always heard that saying, steal with your eyes, which is a trade saying. It's a buddy of mine used to always say that to me. He grew up in the trades. His dad was a master cabinet maker, and he grew up in that environment and ended up running that business. And his dad would always tell him, steal with your eyes. And what he meant by that was always be watching, always be learning, no matter who's on the site with you or who's in the workplace. There's always something that you can learn from that person, whether or not they're a master or a junior. So we've always talked about how there's always something you can learn from even other especially other trades. Yeah. Because
even
mistakes that you make, for sure.
Right.
But even like someone coming from a different trade and the way they do something might be like a revelation for an isolated trade where you're not really seeing how that's done. So I think part of it was like a little bit of that is like bringing in the best of other local trades and businesses and being able to learn directly from them what's worked for them and what's taken them to that next level, because we're on that journey too, to that next level. And then of course, after you hit that, it's the next level and the next level, right?
There's so many parallels from one business to the next. So when we talk trades, whether it's flooring or framing or cabinetry, I mean, you can compartmentalize it to your plans, and you're executing that plan and the different pieces all along through, and the people who are involved and the people who are behind the scenes, and so I feel like we do have all so many different kinds of similarities that hey, let's learn from each other as well.
Yeah.
And somebody like a framer or cabinet maker may have a better idea, and this is where you're stealing with your eyes idea. It's like, hey, there's something we can learn from each other, and we should want that pursuit of excellence and knowledge to just carry through, which is that is what we want. We want to bring in different people, different ideas. Anything else on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we work with a lot of these people day to day, whether or not they're from the supplier end or the GC side, or general contractors or other trades, sub trades. We work with our own subcontractors. We work with like all these different people, and a lot of what we run into with difficulty is basically communicating and understanding where these other people are coming from, and understanding, trying to put yourself in their shoes, right? Like when you're having when things are getting tough on a job site, and I imagine this applies to all aspects of business. It's not just even trades, but in any walk of life. When you're interacting with other businesses and interacting with other partners on a project that are external to your organization, you're going to have conflict, and it can be handled gracefully, or it can be handled poorly. And so really it's understanding where they're coming from, and gaining that understanding of where their challenges are in relation to what we do, which we do floors and finishings. So if we understand where the points are that they have the most difficulty with our part of the business, it helps us when we go into our next jobs or into our situations, to be just aware of what we can do to make it easier on other subtrades and the GC and just everyone, right? Suppliers and everybody. So yeah, for sure. What is it? It's like a huge, like when you're dealing with a big project, it can be multiple years. How many different people are involved in that process from the beginning? Architect, designer, gets bid out, estimated, GC, all the subs. There's a lot of moving parts to these projects, and sometimes you get bogged down in the middle of it, and you're like, wow, like, how are we going to get through this? But then you realize this is day in and day out. This is the way things operate, and this is the way of the world, right? Trying to interact. So there's a lot of lessons that you can take from the situation that we're as contractors are in. You can take that and you can just apply those lessons to how the world works, really, because we're building the world. That's what we're doing.
We can look at a couple. Let's be specific with a couple of examples. One, contractor goes silent.
Yeah.
We're trying to get paid.
Oh,
We're saying, what's happening? Like, your time's up. Well, now you're in the middle of, well, do you extend some extra terms? Do you hope for the best? Do you cover your tail and throw a lien down?
Yeah.
But the contractor's not saying anything. Well, what's worse, right? Like, say something, say the client is just late on a payment or something, and that idea, like, hey, that communication has to go all the way down the line,
Sure.
because everybody's trying to pay somebody,
Yeah.
and but no communication's worse, right? So
No communications that is like absolutely the worst, and you can flip that, right? Here's another example. So that's one perfect example of no communication being like a breakdown in the process, and a serious one when you're dealing at the business level. But on the job level, if we're not, like, say for example, there's a delay in a product coming in, and we have a residential customer that's expecting it, and they've got time booked off, or they've got their schedule arranged so that there's going to be a job done at their home on a certain day. And you might want to lay that off as long as you can to try and see if it might work out, if you already know there's going to be a delay of some kind. But the right way to do it is to inform the customer as early as possible that there is a delay, right? And if you do that, if you follow that communication and follow that like idea of being upfront, being on front of it, it makes everything work better, because that person's expectations now are adjusted earlier in the process. You're not stringing them along to a point where now they're going to be, put out pretty massively by a delay. And usually these kinds of things can be easily dealt with, like when the information's been given to all the parties. Right?
Yeah, and I think what talking trade talk is what most guys forget is they keep in their silo thinking, well, I'll hope for the best.
Yeah.
And they forget there's trades trailing
Yeah.
and leading up to it, and maybe there's ways that can be shifted, worked around. Let's bring in the painter before, or let's do this or that, and then the end date can still be the end date, but
With adjustments.
And that's where our in-house project managers working with another general contractor, site manager, or whatnot, would be kind of that to gel even in a more difficult situation,
right.
and say, you know what, like here's a problem, but here's a solution too, right? Or how do we work with you on this? Because we can knock this out quick once it arrives, but we're 1-2 days, whatever it is. And, but again, what do most people do? They just hold it under their hat or hold it tight, hope for the best. And
which generally works out to be the worst, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about that quite a bit. And actually, that's a good point that you bring up. Like our guy, our site super right now that we're using on our bigger projects, he's a guy that's got an experience in like the entire scope of renovations and jobs. So he's able to, and this is something that early on was a big benefit that we had, was being able, with you even working on sites and being able to foresee where the issues could be circumvented within other trades, like help them to make the right schedule so that it works within whatever delays or whatever product issues that we might have had or someone else might have had. Cabinets are late. Well, what can we do in order to make it work for them? So that's such a key, is like, and again, this is back to why we're so interested in doing a project like this, is because we're always trying to see how we work within that bigger ecosystem. We understand that, and being flooring too, we're nearly at the end of the project. If we're not the last, we're pretty much right there, right at the end. So,
but we've come up with a lot of pretty good ideas to help work around. Like if we floor the whole area, but then once the cabinets come, cut it out, and because we don't know exactly where the cabinets are going, or it might change just this little bit. So let the guy map it out, and hey, we'll come back and we'll notch it out.
Sure.
And that kind of problem solving is what it was. But like, how many times are we feeling, maybe it's not true, but we feel like we're almost running the site at the end?
Well, sometimes.
Because
so is the tail wagging the dog, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like that.
It feels like that, although it's not really, but there's all these other parts. But we do definitely try and help that, make the best situation. And I feel that's why that's our added value for sure.
For sure.
Because some just throw their hands up and say, well, call me when you get your stuff sorted. And call me with the new schedule, and everyone's going, no, we got to keep on schedule.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I like the collaboration that we have with a lot of our existing network, and this, I think, hey, we can start talking to some of these guys and really dive in, because we all deal with the same stuff from different angles.
For sure.
And I mean, we even have different schooling and experiences, and that, whether it's our project manager or different trades we're coming from, or life experiences, and it's like, let's pull it all together and learn from each other, like back to what you were saying. And that's what this should be. This is just a few minutes to talk it out and make good connections, realize we're people. A lot of times the trades tries to reduce it to just crack the whip and knock it out, and forget that, you know what, these guys and girls have families, and they, sometimes you can't put in an extra hour or two. You got a son's birthday or
Sure.
whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, that stuff happens, right?
There's other factors, but trades, there's too much. Sometimes there's too much heartless cracking the whip.
Yes.
And you gotta have a balance there, and but talking about it in this idea is just, hey, let's bring back a human element to the trades, and we're just regular guys trying to crush it out and make people happy and get a job done, and
I think that's another thing that we talk about often when we're having like our scrums, like our debriefs after jobs. We'll often say, man, if only we all the people that we're working with on this job just looked at it as we're all a team. Instead of it being like a bunch of competing entities.
yeah,
It seems like it gets that way, and it shouldn't be, because to us, it's always like, how can we be a better teammate? And I often feel like we're the odd people out because of that, because we're looking to try and be a good teammate, be a good member of a bigger picture. And it often feels adversarial. And I hate that. Like, I don't want to be in an adversarial relationship with people that I'm working beside.
that's the negative side of the trades.
Yeah.
In general, where one guy's against the next.
Yeah.
Every trade shouldn't come in saying, "Well, look at what happened there," and these walls are crooked. We can't tile on top of this. Well, okay, is it a learning, or is it just a dump session of just
trying to one up one
into,
another?
yeah, and then we're better than you kind of thing. No, nobody wants that.
Well, and at the end of the day, and this is something another thing that we've talked about over the years too, is one of the reasons why our business is split between commercial and custom homes predominantly, and then a smaller section that's like more residential, that type of thing. But what we always really liked about the custom home side of things, and I mean, I came quite a bit from that background with the family business, etc. But you became part of a long-term team, like those plumbers and those painters and those electricians and those every step of the way, the framers, everybody, you're working together on jobs year after year after year. Mm-hmm. Same builder, I'm not saying every job, but every year for decades, working with basically the same people. Okay, they might have new guys on the team, but it's the same companies, it's the same people, and you have a respect for one another and a working relationship. And some of those jobs, they are so good. Like, I don't think people realize how good jobs can go when you have coordination amongst team members.
Yeah, totally.
And people they like each other. They don't hate each other. They're not arguing amongst one another. They actually like each other. And and you respect the fact that the next trade's got to get in there. So you do everything you can in order to make it so that that painter can get in that room. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we always try to do that, but sometimes we feel like it doesn't come back, and that's what we want to remedy. We want to make, we want to have that team like mentality and that team like feeling.
This is probably some of our future discussions, like how do we get back to that?
Yeah.
How do you get back to working together? Because there is so many pop-up, do a money grab and take your money and run idea. I mean, we're not like that. So how do we network and get around people who truly want to do quality, want to have a long-term company, want to build a better future, want to build quality, and so how do you? This could be a whole nother,
for sure. And these are probably things that'll come up in episodes, like almost every episode to some degree. One of the things we used to always say, and it was one of my favorite lines with suppliers, is when we were first starting out, it was tough to get suppliers in here, distributors, right? And having come from that background with family business and having dealt with a lot of these companies as a family business for 20, 30 years, I would often say, you know what, if you can't get us on for this bid, no worries, we're going to be around for the next 25 years. We'll be doing business one way or another. That was a common refrain that I used to say when we were first starting the business in the early days. Now we've got all the distributors, pretty much they're coming to us now, right? Like to a large degree. And that's not like a brag or anything. It's just where we're at in our business cycle. Back then we needed to be able to bid projects, and in order to get bid projects, you had to get pricing, right? So it was always on. That was one of my top methods of dealing with the supplier, was taking it more of a step back instead of a step forward and getting aggressive, being more laid back and more like, you know what, we're going to be doing this for a long time. We're going to be here for the next 20, 25 years. Sometimes they'd come back, well, I'll be retired by then. It's like, well, yeah, but someone's going to be working in your position, and we'll be here working with them for the next 20, 30 years. Who knows how long? But because when you've been around and you've been in business for decades, irregardless of what the business is, when you've been in that type of environment before, you realize that these are the kind of relationships that take time. It's not something that you can make happen overnight. It's something that does take sometimes many years or even decades. There was contractors that we worked with, other subs on jobs that we didn't really get along with. Like there was like maybe conflict amongst one person in their team and one person on our team, but over time, it's that respect, right? So,
and we've seen shops come and go and pop up and fail and go under, and so we do get it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it is takes a bit to claw your way in and to make your own name, and once now we are in a good position, but you kind of understand things from the other side too.
Oh, for sure.
And maybe we have more of those type of discussions, have suppliers in and say, what do they want to see?
For sure.
Because there's a pretty good price war happening too with low foreign supplies, and how cheap can it get, and
race to the bottom, right?
And lowest quality but still barely cover a warranty. Like, who wants that, right? So trying to filter through suppliers and understand suppliers are fighting that too. We've had suppliers who make a thinner product or change the specs, and we didn't even know. I mean,
we've had that.
We had a couple weeks ago we just realized during COVID, one of the hardwood suppliers shrunk their top veneer layer thickness and didn't change out their samples, and here we are selling a product, and they had to come to the table and make it right, because they said, we
respect it.
We respect it. And it's like, okay, so how do we get out of that after it's laid?
Right.
Well, we do the customer right, and that may, whether it's deals or what, but we need to talk to suppliers. They're dealing with challenges too, because
for sure.
freight went like crazy, so they had to pivot, and we all got to pivot, but we all got to stay on the same page.
That's
too,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So
again, comes down to that communication component, right? All right. So what we intend to do with this podcast is basically learn, right? Mm-hmm. This is a learning platform for us more than anything. We often sit at the end of the day, at the end of the week, have conversations about what we've gone through, what we're looking to in the future, and I mean, basically, a lot of the idea behind it was, man, some of that stuff we should just be sitting down and recording, because there's some stuff there that even if all we do is look back in the future and see where we're coming from, right? And that was one of the things I did want to bring up from before, something you were saying before, is like, wouldn't it be cool to see something like this or some of the behind the scenes when we were first starting out Because I think people don't realize, and this is something that if we have other people coming in that are other business owners or like higher performing people in the industry, what it takes to get to a point where we're at now, where we're starting to make a name for ourselves in the community, and we're starting to become a bigger player. Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't realize that that's something that it takes a lot, and especially from yourself, like as the owner. Just like an amazing level of perseverance and effort that's actually quite inspiring. I mean, a lot of us that are here that are working with beside you, like it's a standard that's really difficult to certainly live up to, but at least it's something that we can aspire to, right? So from a personal perspective or a business perspective and a personal business perspective, it's something special. And I've been lucky because I've had this opportunity before too. Like it's sort of been something that I've had the opportunity and the luck to be around more than once, is to have a visionary owner that allows the creative freedom of its personnel to be able to try and express our business and our activities to the furthest extent that is possible. Yeah. So that is like something that I think, and we've talked about this a lot, like that's something that we can get out of so many different layers of the process and the community, right? Like, but especially that those visionaries, those people that have done that work and gone through that process, it's something special, and it's something that we would like, I think, to recognize as well, and to be able to learn from.
And really, yeah, what does it take? What are some of those core values to the grit, the tenacity, and then not everybody can do what you do. Not everybody can do what I do, or even Cam and the guys on the floor. I think we all need to be in our element, doing our thing. Some of that as manager and as hiring and finding the right people for the right place in the right seat. So yeah, we can. That's probably more what we should talk about too, because that's probably what is making us successful. Well, it's the people, right? So it's always the people. But you can have a fantastic individual in the wrong role, and they start hating their job because they might not be thriving doing what they are in their element, or should be in their element, however we word that. But this finding the right people, putting them in the right place, encouraging them. Again, that's a big thing in trades in general. Yeah. Let's not beat the people down who are doing the hard work. It's not just wring them out. Sure, there's metrics that are involved on every job and every role. There's quotas or standards that have to be met without question. But how do we find people who are doing that? Because a lot of the industry has gone away from quality standards, or and so now here we are looking in a pool for this needle in the haystack, or whatever you want to say, that the industries have gone off track. Yeah. And they're saying, everybody's out for themselves, or to get least effort out to get the most back. And we're trying to, how do you shift that mentality to find good people in a sea of
mediocrity.
That's the way. No, that's a good way to say it.
Mediocrity. Really, it is. And also, like again, like you say, and I think this is such an important point, getting people optimally situated in a role that's best suited to them. And so, like you said, a good person in the wrong role isn't going to work. So yeah, and I think that goes for also businesses. Like if that business isn't really situated and organized for that type of project, maybe it's not a good fit. Right?
And we talk about leadership. Leaders have to exemplify what, this whole joke about do as I say, not as I do, like that doesn't work.
It doesn't work
from a leadership point of view. So maybe a whole nother series or set about leadership and actually what's good leadership. What's the difference between, what it takes to inspire guys, like you're even saying, or get them doing. Some people don't even live up to their own standard. Like, how do you call a guy out and say, "Come on, you can do better than this," or with a challenge, let him struggle through the challenge so that he's learned and not just take over and say, "Hey, dummy, here, let me do it."
Way of doing it, right?
That's probably not the best, right?
Not the best.
So let's talk more about all this in upcoming episodes, and I think there's tons to talk about.
Well, hey, we don't ever have any problem talking. That's one thing that we have no shortage of when we get together. We generally have a lot to say. So, I mean, why not explore these ideas and bring in some other minds and some other people? Even internally, we've got some people here that would be great to talk to as well. And, I think for a first inaugural episode, like, I feel like this is a good start, right?
It is, yeah.
And all we can do is just take this and then take it and just step by step, like as we do with all of our endeavors, try to build off of each of these steps that we take.
We'll see who we can bring in.
Yeah.
And see what they have to say. And, maybe those invites will be slow to start, but you generally, as it grows, it'll get easier and easier. People come in, say, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Yeah.
And everybody's got something to say.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I don't know there's got to be some quote out there, but I think we do more of our work by thinking, processing, planning than we can do struggling hands-on sometimes. You just do that thought beforehand.
Yeah.
We've solved more problems just by, processing and thinking of it from all kinds of angles. And there's maybe even a whole nother,
I think,
train of thought.
For sure. And what I think of when you start talking like about that type of thing, and this is something that maybe is another little line within this endeavor, is sometimes it's leaving and going out. Like we go out to the bush. We go out and into the wilderness where there is no cell phone reception. Yeah. And I don't think that that's an uncommon thing. I think that that's quite common amongst people that are in higher pressure situations where the pressure's on pretty much steady. Yeah. That sometimes stepping away is the best way to get clarity on what you're within. So again, that's something else that we've talked quite a bit about that too, like how cool it would be.
How do we reset? How do we refresh? How do you clear your head?
Yeah.
And I mean, we have our way of doing it, but there's different ways, and sometimes that's family, sometimes it's alone, sometimes it's hitting a creative side, nothing related to work.
Yeah.
Some people do art or I don't know what other.
Sure. Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots to talk about. I think
so too.
We're off to a good start. So.
Cameron, do you have anything to say?
We good. I'll turn my mic off.
Oh, he's turned his mic off. All right. Well, that's great. Thanks for sitting down, taking some time. And I know that this is a special day. So this is Matt's son's birthday.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
He's excited. And I think Zach's really excited about this project as well. So
Yeah.
I think down the road he'll be a guest at some point as well.
Probably might come into the trades himself.
Yeah. So that's great. Thanks
Okay.
again,
Thank you.
and have a great weekend.
Okay. See you guys.